I felt like some kind of pervert stalking my wife. It depressed me to have to resort to such measures, but it had to end sometime. For the past few weeks, I knew something was going on. I didn't want it to be true. I didn't want to find out, but I had to do it. Sherry, my wife of 8 years with whom I had lived with, was showing every sign of infidelity. All the little things that never added up to something big but kept gnawing at me. I checked the obvious things like phone calls and emails, but found nothing. Although we didn't have children, Sherry wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. She spent most of her day making stained glass jewelry and stained glass windows. She seemed happy, and that was fine with me. I used my law degree to open a small law office in a shopping center. I wasn't an exotic trial lawyer. I just handled things like wills, property transfers, no-fault divorces, and other mundane legal matters. The most interesting aspect of my profession was providing bail services for one of the local motorcycle clubs. I did not provide the bail, but simply worked between the bail bond company and the club to make sure everything went well. On the rare occasions when legal representation was needed, I would pass the referral on to a friend of mine who handled criminal cases. In return, he would send me lots of small, unimportant cases. Everyone had a win-win. Anyway, today Sherry informed me that she was going shopping with her friend Mary Jane and asked if I wanted her to get something for me while she was gone. For some reason, I decided that today was the day I was either going to make a fool of myself or find out something I didn't want to know. So here I am. Sherry arrived at her friend Mary Jane's house and entered the house. After about 30 minutes, Mary Jane came out of the house alone, got into Sherry's car, and drove down the street. I had a GPS tracker on my car, so I didn't follow her. About 20 minutes later, a guy on a brand-new Harley-Davidson touring motorcycle pulled into the driveway. He was dressed like a biker, but something was off. He entered the house without knocking. I managed to get one clear shot before he entered the house. I waited about 10 minutes and took some good shots of the bike and license plate. A half hour later, I was at Parkview Plaza looking for Mary Jane. On the way to the mall, I checked the license plate number. Mary Jane was relaxing as best she could on one of those crappy plastic chairs in the food court. She jumped slightly when I sat down next to her with my coffee. "John, you scared me. What are you doing here?" I tried to get comfortable, which was nearly impossible. I didn't bother answering her. I just sat there and sipped my coffee. It was black and hot. I was never really into all these new fancy drinks they called coffee. She was getting nervous. I laughed to myself as I watched her fidget in her chair, trying to figure out how she could handle the situation. I decided to let her off the hook. "Relax, Mary Jane. I know where she is. I know who she's with, and I know what she's doing. I don't care about that anymore." She brought her hands up to her face. "Oh, shit!" I expected more, but nothing followed. I expected a string of stamps. "Tell her to stay at your place. I'll send all her stuff over later. Any questions?" She only shook her head as I walked away. The meat pit started out as a bar-restaurant, but eventually turned into a biker bar that served excellent brisket. It wasn't what you'd call a family place. They had a pretty good straight business on the weekends, but weekday evenings were pretty rough. As soon as I walked through the door, Hector Turpin extended a cold, long neck to me. "Welcome to our home, counselor. We don't see you very often." It was the middle of the afternoon, but at least 20 members were enjoying the atmosphere. "Are we in some kind of trouble, counselor?" "No, you're all right. I, on the other hand, have a bit of a dilemma." Hector and I and a few other club members had a small conversation around the round table. Terry Evans seemed to be a regular at the pit on weekends. He was one of those people who liked to think they could fit in. They immediately recognized the bike and his picture. Grinning widely, Hector told me he'd take care of everything. There was nothing more I wanted to know. There was still plenty of time, so I headed home. An hour later, all of Sherry's clothes and personal belongings were neatly packed into black garbage bags. I was amazed that I could fit it all in the car. If she needed furniture or appliances, she would have to meet me later. Her car was parked at Mary Jane's, but she hadn't left the house. I put all the bags on the porch and quietly walked out. From the window, I could see Mary Jane watching me. Sherry never called. No messages, no emails, no excuses. True, I had to make another trip to deliver all her hobby supplies. I just put them on the porch. I drew up a simple divorce suit and filed it with her. She signed all the papers while she waited for the filing clerk. Was there any remorse? I'll never know. Was there regret? I'll never know. Do I care? Hell no. I got drunk that weekend. When I arrived at work on Monday morning, I found that we had been broken into. Nothing had been stolen, but on my desk was a large pickle jar filled with nuts and bolts. I immediately grabbed the phone. Hector? Lunch at the Red Lobster noon. My treat. Of course, I had to leave a message. There was no way he'd be up that early. He ordered the fisherman's platter and had 2 servings of cheddar cookies. Do you want to know, my friend? Or would you prefer I keep you in the dark? I'm fine, Hector. Give me all the details. Dude came in around 4. 2 of the guys started chatting him up and invited him to play 8-ball. He was ecstatic because he'd never been included in a game before or even noticed. We skipped dessert, but ordered coffee. My main man, Butterball, took 2 prospective customers outside, gave them a toolbox, and told them to completely disassemble his motorcycle. All the nuts, bolts, and screws were to go into a pickle jar. To make it easier, they didn't have to disassemble the engine and transmission. It took them almost 3 hours. When they were done, they brought out the pickle jar. They poured us coffee. The guys suddenly stopped playing 8-ball and left. Butterball's old lady Kiki walked over to Evans and whispered in his ear. He looked around and slowly headed for the door. He cast a glance at the pile of parts where his bike lay and rode away. That was the last we saw of him getting on the Uber. So I'm the proud owner of a homemade Harley now? Hector had to suppress a laugh. Well, sort of. Unfortunately, by the next morning, almost all the other parts were gone. What did she say to him? I don't know exactly, but I think your wife's name was mentioned. The rest of the week passed in routine. The divorce papers had been filed, and now all that was left to do was wait. 90 days is a long time. I still didn't communicate with Sherry. I missed being in touch with her, but I couldn't accept the alternative. To kill time, I called Monsanto Automotive, where Terry Evans worked. He no longer worked there and left no forwarding address. An acquaintance at the local law enforcement office said there was no report of a damaged motorcycle. 2 weeks later, I ran into Mary Jane again at the mall. It wasn't planned, just a chance encounter. She was sitting in the food court with a cup of coffee. I don't know why, but she looked a little depressed. Mind if I join you? I didn't shock her this time. She just smiled and nodded. We were silent for a few minutes. Finally, she let out a small sigh. John, I'm sorry I messed up your marriage. You didn't. She did. But I helped her. I did everything I could for her. She asked me for help and I couldn't refuse her. She was my only friend. For a few more minutes, we sat in silence. Is she with him now? No. She moved back to Frackville to stay with her parents. He just disappeared. No word, no text, no email. One day he was here, and the next day he was gone. Was she upset? She was upset about losing you, but not at all about him. I guess my next question should be, why did she do it? But you know, I don't want to know. Thank you for your time, Mary Jane. I think I saw a small tear as I left. It was a slow day at the office. The final divorce was still 2 weeks away. I was trying to guess how many nuts, bolts, and screws were in the pickle jar. I couldn't help but wonder what it was that Kiki whispered in that guy's ear. I guess I'll never know.